Well, hello there, folks. Nice to see you. I'm still working on my big project. It's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of information, and I want to try to present it well because I want to get it off my chest and move on to some other things. Anyway, today I'm just going to present a short piece inspired by all the punditry and all the armchair quarterbacks and all the annoying reportage on the war. It's just tragically uncomfortable to have to listen to this day after day. And I really hope and pray that the war is going to end soon somehow. But anyway, that piece is coming right up. But I wanted to say that I was talking to a friend the other day and I had this thought. It's nothing really new or anything, but I was thinking it would be so cool if somehow the world got rid of all of its high-tech weaponry. And all we did to settle, a conflict through a war would be to fight like the Romans or the Greeks again. Use swords, spears, shields, bows and arrows, projectiles like trebuchets and things like that again. And just brutal hand-to-hand knife combat. So, if two sides were fairly matched, like perhaps the two are in this particular war, they would get their legions together, and everyone who was trained and wanted to participate in the war would be incentivized with money, land, property, whatever. So it would be worth, risking your life, not just for patriotism or some other abstract thing. Maybe that's not abstract for some people, but, something more concrete than just emotional patriotism. And the leaders that get the war started for whatever reasons they come up with on all sides of a conflict, people have their reasons for wanting to fight. They have to lead like they did back in the early days of the Roman Republic. So if you couldn't go out there and lead the way, there wouldn't be any war. And then we could monetize it. How fun would that be? We could have cameras like in the NFL on wires going back and forth across the battlefield. The battlefield would entail all kinds of cool obstacles and rivers and buildings and stuff that you could fight around and through, but mostly in the fields, pitched battles with sword, shield, spear. And people could bet on it. You'd have these really wonderful online betting platforms where people could wager on the outcome of the war and so on. If you weren't well matched, of course, you wouldn't go up against the other side, and you'd have to negotiate some other kind of treaty, or you'd have to convince a bunch of other countries to participate with you against the bigger power in order to make things more well matched. And then it would be great sport, People would be well incentivized and taken care of if they were soldiers, and the conflict would be finished, and there would be some kind of system of international law that would enforce, hopefully people would go along with it, the results of the conflict. And we could just get out from under the yoke of these terribly destructive weapons systems that just destroy civilian life and civilians, and just wreck everything and aren't very good for the climate and whatnot. Yeah, it'd be such a better way to wage war, I think. And then all the people who think, real men fight wars would have an outlet and they could be heroes. And they could do all that without wrecking their families back home. Wouldn't that be nice? So onward with this little video presentation. Thanks for watching. Countries worldwide may try to inspire peace negotiations, but the United States won't participate. Uncle Sam wants war. The question remains, will the U.S. give Ukraine enough artillery and shells to win the war in some fashion in the coming years? Americans might get bored, and a more lucrative opportunity for the corporate empire might arise in Asia soon. A case of the snake eating its tail. Developing and maintaining a peaceful world order is hard when so many countries are under the empire's boot. Leaders worldwide know this and are creating opportunities for new allegiances and new systems of cooperation and trade. How innovative will these new power centers become? A case of new wine in old wineskins. As far as developing countries are concerned, if they can't support the development of Western products and afford to consume them, they can't grow. Growth akin to cancer. One would hope that will change. People might imagine healthier forms of development. Meanwhile, the culture wars in the United States are only getting more passionate. Culture wars stem from the 7 deadly sins. They also entertain, inspire outrage, and distract people from more important things. Whether the United States will buckle under internal pressure remains to be seen. In the coming years, we might see a disunited federation of kingdoms, city-states, and DAOs instead of the United States under a federal government. Peace negotiations might begin if Ukraine or Russia's leader is taken off the board. Deposed and murdered leaders are simple facts of war. How much death and destruction will be needed before there can be a ceasefire? War is brutal, and sometimes it takes a lot before one side's will to fight becomes exhausted. In time, we will know much more about everything surrounding this war and how it ended. Until then, cheerleaders on all sides will pretend they are righteous advocates of good over evil and somehow understand this conflict's complex circumstances. Of course, armchair commentators are often stubbornly, willfully ignorant blowhards enamored with their own opinions and would be best ignored. It's easy to understand why the pundits, think tankers, and paid propagandists support a particular narrative. It's their career. They're making money. They have a stake in the game. Ordinary people don't have the time to understand complex geopolitical conflicts and resource competition. It's also clear that audiences' opinions are easily manipulated when facing propaganda and professional media-generated information torrents. Not long after all the lies are exposed, the players in this conflict will eventually be rehabilitated. Once again, people, especially in the United States, won't be able to find Ukraine on a map. Americans, please turn off cable news. If you must watch TV news, watch any channel not originating or controlled by U.S. corporations. If you can make time, Try to find good sources to read, get help if needed, and pick up a book or two dealing with the recent history leading up to this war. And if all you can do is pray, pray for peace.